Hello, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. I've got Doyle with me today, and we're going to talk about digital transformation and the digital transformation expedition. I need to just read my writing there. If you don't know Doyle, I'm going to do is that Doyle's is the author of this book, Breakthrough, which if he's got one as well. If you haven't got a copy, you do.
I've got a couple.
Doyle, where can people find you?
You can find me pretty much anywhere on Google, Doyle Buehler. There's only one of me, but I'm mostly on LinkedIn. So just look it up, Doyle Buehler, and happy to chat or whatever. So yeah,
And
I'm always on socials.
And your book's on Amazon, isn't it?
It is, yeah, on Amazon. Yeah, or the main site, depth.digital as well. So yeah, just reach out. Always happy to connect with other internet peoples.
And you are always active on socials, so
yeah, as much as possible. Sometimes I take a couple-hour break.
So I've been to your hometown.
Which one? Oh yeah, Winnipeg.
I've been to Winnipeg in Canada.
Yeah.
I've been to Winnipeg a couple of times.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's so cool.
Where are you now? You're in
I'm in Perth, Australia.
Perth.
Yeah. So I've been here a number of years. So yeah, Winnipeg was a little bit too cold for me in the winter times. I couldn't stand the minus 40.
Yeah, I was there when it was minus 17 and it had been minus 40 the week before, yeah.
Yeah. Get out of that Dodge. Get out of Dodge, yeah, as they say.
Yeah. So you're a big thinker, aren't you, in terms of digital transformation? I mean, a lot of this book is about your thoughts and advice on digital transformation. And you're always coming up with more thoughts around digital. So what's your current thinking around transformation and stuff?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I live and breathe kind of that thinking space of how do we actually make it better and easier and more understandable for business. And that's kind of been what's driving me for the last, I'm thinking of it. I've been kind of in the digital space for like 20 years, almost 20 years. So with startups and e-commerce and agency and consulting and all that kind of stuff. So my mission has been, how do we actually make this easier to understand and how to make it easier to access and use for businesses as well. So that's kind of where I've sort of been journeying and sort of that adventure that I've been taking. And what are these pieces that we can kind of pull out and say, okay, we can do this a little bit better. Maybe we don't need this. How do we kind of get around this? So my background is engineering. And I was also a pilot, so I'm kind of very analytical. So it's like, how do we design processes? How do we design steps so that we kind of know what we need to know and what's really important as well? And that kind of led me to, I think, well, obviously the book where, yeah, I go through some of those steps and some of those instructions and processes and that sort of thing. But also look into the future. It's like, well, what do we need and where are we now? And with COVID, a lot of it came down to kind of being prepared and just kind of realizing that it's not easy, but if you look at kind of the great expeditions of the world, they're bloody hard and not everybody survived, but the ones that did or had the best, ability to succeed were the ones who were prepared and who kind of understood the journey and who knew how to get to the base of the mountain or whatever the case may be. And that's kind of where I came up with what I call the digital expedition, is being prepared from that digital leadership perspective, but also having the teams and tools and resources and technology and strategies to be able to make it all work together.
So talk us through this expedition, because I'm guessing it's being an expedition, it means it's got a beginning, but not necessarily an end. So it's a journey or something.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, it absolutely is a journey, and that's what's super important, is understanding kind of those pieces, and I've called them base camps for lack of a better term, is that if we can kind of understand what each of those base camps mean, we can actually create more of sort of a planned journey as well. And even if you take a step back, it's like if I was to say, hey Tim, let's go on an expedition to Mount Everest. We'll fly down to Nepal and away we go. I would be suspect if you said, yeah, woohoo, let's go, kind of thing, because we're not really ready. And that's kind of how I see a lot of businesses, is we're not really ready for that journey. We don't have those steps involved. So it's about preparing for that journey, but then also what we're going to do in that journey. And I created like a massive worksheet. I don't know if you can see that, but
Yeah.
it's kind of has the 10 base camps as well. And I can put a link, or I can put it in the LinkedIn live chat later, but that you
Please
can
do.
actually
Yeah.
download this worksheet to go through them. So there's a number of steps. I don't know if you wanted to go through all of them, but basically it's looking at how it is as a journey type thing. And so it's not just one specific thing that you need to concern yourself with. It's having, being what I call a chief expedition officer is knowing where you're going, where your team's going, what you need, what you need to be able to do along the way. It helps reduce sort of that the error rate of digital transformations that just don't work, and it's because they're not kind of looking at that complete picture type
Because
thing.
I think with all of us with digital transformation, what happens is that a lot of organizations will want to do it themselves. So they say to somebody, "You're now the digital transformation officer," and the person goes, "Oh, okay, right. And what does that mean?" And they come onto, they might read your book, they might come onto LinkedIn. But the thing is that there will always be things that they will miss. You got to remember that, back in the old days when people went, when Captain Scott went to the North Pole, he went in tweeds, a tweed jacket, and nowadays, there's probably some polyethylene special jacket that you have to wear, to get there.
Yeah.
So what you've got there are basically steps which you've worked out. Okay, what are the things that we need to do so we don't miss anything?
Yeah, exactly. So that you're prepared for that journey ahead, because again, getting to the base of the mountain is part of the journey, but it's getting there as well. And if you have a proper toolkit, if you have a proper strategy, that's kind of where you can lean on that to be able to increase that level of success in a transformation, because they are big and they are complex. Nothing's saying that they're going to be easy, but the point is that how do you make that process a little bit more understanding and being able to kind of complement what you do as a business? And to me, that's fundamentally what it is. It's how do we design that journey? It's not just when you say digital transformation, like a lot of times it's pretty vague. It's like, well, what do you mean? Does that mean like,
Well, a
souping
lot
up
of
my
people just think it's
website?
about IT replacement, it's system
Well,
replacement.
yeah, but it's not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you and I both know that.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I mean, I've worked in environment and companies where, selling our stuff. Well, yeah, you want to buy our stuff because it's digital transformation. It's like, no, it's not. It's just another IT system that you're going to replace. It does exactly the same as the IT system that you have right now, just
Yeah.
maybe a bit newer. It's in the cloud.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like you can look at there's so many tools out there. You don't need all these tools, right? You need the strategies to be able to make sure that you're using the tools properly.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, digital transformation is a buzzword, let's be perfectly honest. But if you look at it more in terms of that as a journey, right? It's not something that you can just buy off the shelf. It's something that you have to be prepared for. You have to strategize. You have to understand that journey. You have to get your customers on board as well. It is a big process, but if it's broken down into these pieces, at least it makes it manageable. It makes it more like a business GPS or something where you can punch in the numbers and away you go. At least you can get there the first few times, and then it becomes more natural in terms of what.
So why don't you pick a couple of the things out on your sheet just to give us an example?
Well, the big piece here is actually it's what I call the AMPS model. So basically it looks like we're going up a peak, right?
Oh yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I was playing around with that because I love triangles almost as much as I love Venn diagrams.
I can see from your whiteboard at the back that.
Yeah, exactly. So I created basically
I was
a
wondering
little.
when the tetrahedron. This is
Yeah,
the tetrahedron, the
it's
digital
a
transformation
tetrahedron. Yeah.
tetrahedron.
Yeah, or
Look at that.
a stratahedron. Let's get this right.
It's a stratahedron. Is that a tetrahedron that does strategy?
Exactly. But
Yep.
what it does is it helps you tell that story of digital transformation.
Right.
Right. So I can put in the pieces that are important to my business. So I had like 4 triangles drawn out
So
on a flat surface.
explain the tetrahedron to us then, please.
Well, this is basically a tool to kind of tell that story, tell that strategy of what's important to my business, right? So in this case, I have built one called the Business GPS, right? So what's important to this? It's being confident, it's being capable, and it's being compelling, and it's being, those 3 things. So confident, got to just make sure that it shows for the camera, capable and compelling, right?
Yeah.
So that's what creates what I call the base of the business GPS as well. So
Right.
it allows you to be able to convey that story. It's like, okay, well, what's important today, and how is my team going to understand how are we being more capable online with our business? So we have to look at, 3 specific things: monetizing the gap, developing customer journey, and designing your digital toolbox as well, right? So all of these pieces tell a story, and they're part of that journey. So I created an online tool that you can actually design one, and then print it out onto a flat A4,
Cool.
and then you just cut it up and you fold it up, and you get your little 3D tetrahedron.
It's just like blue pizza.
It is. And they can even stick to magnetic boards as well.
Oh, right. Cool. I thought that was like a screensaver, a 3D screensaver on a computer or something.
Not quite, but
Right.
it's the same one. But actually, as you said at the beginning, I like to think about things, so I'm thinking about this a lot. And actually, if you look at it, fundamentally, what does a triangle symbol represent? That's a question.
Oh, is that a question? Oh, right.
Yeah. What does that triangle you typically represent?
Well, it's equal, isn't it?
Well, it's change.
Right.
Right? If you draw a triangle,
a delta, as in
it's a delta. Yeah, absolutely. And typically that means change in kind of the world of maths and engineering. It's like, if you see that delta, it's like, yeah, this is a change. So what we're doing here is we're creating dimensions of change, right? We're creating like 3 dimensions of change. So every time you look at this is a dimension of change. This one's a dimension of change. So it all tells a little story around that whole concept of transformation is about change, right? So this is about how we can actually use this as a little storytelling tool as well. So
I think now, I like the thing about the storytelling, because I think one of the things that we all grapple with is talking to the people upstairs. All who went to university 20, 30 years ago, are struggling with the world of digital, and actually having something that we can take to them and say, this is how we're going to do it, and this is the story. And I think it gives them a visualization, because I think, which is more than just 100 PowerPoint deck, which is what other consultancy companies would probably produce.
Yeah, no, for sure, because it allows, it's very tactile, right? And you can design this around AR as well. But fundamentally, I wanted to kind of create that opportunity to say, look, we're going on a digital expedition. We need to understand all these different elements. And then that's because we're taking that journey. It's a transformation journey. And how is best to show that? Well, it's something that we can see. And if it's something that we can feel and touch and tell and talk about, to me, that's the power there. It's not so much the whole concept of digital transformation. It's like, how do you make that tangible and make it into a story that you can tell? So you can talk to anybody about this. You can talk to your team. You can talk to management or your customer even, and just explain the story. We have these 4 elements, and each of these are based upon the business GPS, and we can look at each of these different sides and talk about each of the sides and how they interact, right? Each of these interact as well at the vertices also. So we have like hashtags that we can talk about, in this case, real call to action, online focus, and digital roadmaps, and that sort of thing. So we're able to combine all these concepts into a single point of reference that allows us to tell that story of transformation.
So where have you used this, and what sort of things have you used this in anger at all with it? Well, not for any other people, but used it as used it with organizations.
It's more of a creative tool, right? So it's more of conveying that information. But also what I found is that when you're actually going through, and again, this is why I call it the AMPS process, it's audience, method, process, and story. There's a lot of depth in terms of discovering that. Okay, so that's what it really is. It's a tool to be able to help you find
to brainstorm in effect.
Yeah. So the framework is, these 4 elements, and what do they mean to you? And that's kind of with the online tool. It's really discovering what that business strategy is about, and you can do it by having this kind of template to get you started, to get you, a kickstart. And then it's about the discussion process behind that. Okay, so who is our audience, right? What processes are we dealing with? What is the story we're trying to tell? And what is that method that's really important to us? So if we have those keystones, those foundations, then we can look into that. And that's where we can really dive deep into, okay, well, what does this actually mean for us? And how do we interpret it for our business, right? You don't want something just off the shelf. And that's kind of the thing, is that everything is customized and personalized and that sort of thing to the specific business. So it's not just saying, oh, well, I want that strategy, pull it off the shelf and away we go. It's like, no, even if you did, yeah, okay, you can frame it around that, but you want to be able to customize it specifically to your language for your business. And that's where the real power comes from. It's being able to do that as a discussion point, as an exercise, as a workshop, to say, how do we actually, how do we interpret this? How do we translate it that works for our company and our business and how we deal with our audience? So
right,
it's a deep dive into that foundational strategy to say, this is what our business is about. This is the essence of our business.
And so, in effect, what you're doing is that you're using this as this is an output from a particular strategy session that you may have, or multiple strategy sessions that you have. Yeah. Because exactly. Finding our audience, things have changed so much over the last 24 months.
24 hours.
and in the last 24 hours, because we're talking on a day where the day before Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp went down for, I think it was like 6 hours or something. And all of a sudden we realize how dependent we are on those things. Overly dependent on those things. Yeah. And so, things have changed. The way that I live and the way that I work has changed fundamentally from what it was back in March 2020. I've got my first speaking engagement in 2 weeks, actually, which is the last time I spoke at a conference was the 20th of March 2020. And here we are in October 2021.
Yeah.
That's how much things have changed. And we are now used to being online. Everybody's used to being online.
Yeah.
I talk to my parents and my partner's parents, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I googled it," or "Can you airdrop me that photo?" And it's like, how do you know these things? Well, you do,
Yeah, true. And from a consumer level, we do kind of intuitively know or get, but from a business level, I think that fundamentally there's been a lot of missing strategies, and it really kind of showed where we had the economics of COVID and everything else around that push a lot of businesses out of business, and not because they weren't smart or because they made bad mistakes. It's because they didn't really have a fundamental strategy that said, this is what our business is about, this is how we deliver our value, right? And without those kind of foundational principles, you're kind of pushed and shoved and back and forth and that sort of thing. Whereas if you have that fundamental strategy, you might adjust some of the tactics, right? But fundamentally, it's like, okay, well, this is what our business is about. This is the essence of our business, and this is how we deliver value. So therefore, yes, our tactics will change. Maybe we don't want to be on Facebook. Maybe we want to use Facebook differently, or whatever the case may be. Those can be changed, and those can be part of the process. But having that fundamental strategy is super, super important. I liken it to what I call the 1 in 60 rule, or part of my background is flying as well. And in the military, one of the rule of thumbs is that for every 60 miles forward, if you're 1 degree off, you'll be 1 mile or kilometer, just doesn't matter what scale you use, off of your target. So if you're flying, 60 kilometers, that's not too bad. Like 1 degree, that's like 1 kilometer. You just look down and kind of point the plane in that direction and away you go. But if you're traveling a longer distance from Perth to Sydney or Sydney to London or whatever, guess what? That's a lot of difference with that small 1 degree. So that's foundational strategy helps you correct for those adjustments. And it might be wind, it might be economy, it might be other traffic, it might be competitors, it might be all these factors. But if you can stay within that less than 1 degree, that's going to make a huge difference if you're actually going to get to where it is that you want to go.
Yeah. And I think, you know, having a strategy, a digital strategy, is a must for organizations, and thinking differently. Because I think, you know, I've worked for organizations where you go into a meeting and you go, well, we're gonna replicate what we've done before. And this is actually about thinking differently, because we've got to rethink about who our audience is and where they are and all of those things.
Yeah, definitely. You have to, and now's a good time too to be able to kind of readjust the sails too, right? Fundamentally understand, okay, well, okay, that didn't work, and it's okay to experiment, but let's get the foundation, let's get the strategy lined up so that we're not pushed off course by these other things, the economy and customers and people and all that good stuff too. So it gives us a lot more predictability, it gives us a lot more future proofing, it gives us a lot more sturdiness, like building and building. What do you start with? You start with a foundation. You don't start at the top, you start at the bottom, and build that strong foundation and go from there. So
Yeah,
the triangle is very firm foundation too.
Yeah. The tetrahedron. Yes, I mean, we often get people go, oh yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to have a digital strategy, but first what we're going to do is create some content. And you go, no, what you're doing there is you're actually buying the furniture for building that you haven't built yet.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's part of my mission, and I obviously yourself too, Tim. It's like teaching and showing people that, look, there is a better way to do this. It's, yeah, don't put in the furniture before you've designed the room, kind of thing. I love that, but that's kind of what I think. There's a lot of business sense that, oh well, we'll just kind of do it. Let's throw up a website and throw in some digital technologies, and away we go. But
some
again,
tools, throw some tools,
some
in
tools.
Salesforce,
Yeah,
and hope
throw some tools. Away we go. But it works. It can work for short term, but if you're looking at building a long term business, then you need that foundation.
Doyle, great talking to you again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Just I'm going to show
pleasure.
your book again, because I've got to get it. There we go. Remind people where people can get hold of you.
Just find me on LinkedIn, Doyle Buehler. Easy to spell, easy to remember. DoyleBuehler, and happy to see you guys online.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insight and sharing your digital transformation tetrahedron. I've never had a tetrahedron on before.
Well, now you can. We'll make one for you, Tim.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, Doyle. Thanks.
Pleasure.
Bye.